All right, here we go.
Welcome back to the Good Life Podcast. I'm here with John, our cousin Dee Dee, which we haven't found out how we're related to entirely.
Just met her right now.
Just met her right now. And my favorite cousin in the world, Deborah. We're here. What's up, Deborah? Deborah,
Hello.
first time, long time listener, first time a guest, huh?
It is. We
I'm
tried
just kidding.
this
Stole
once
John's
before.
line. I
my
stole
line.
John's line. That's a line John uses all the time. I saw him cringe because I used it.
When we're doing Bible study on Zoom and someone talks for this first time, that's what we say. Anyways,
Oh, okay.
long time listener, first time caller.
I know. We're still trying to get the wheels rolling, guys. We're cold. We haven't done one of these in a little while, so we apologize. But
Well, I'm excited to be here. Thanks for the invite.
we're trying to get Deborah and Dee Dee to shake the nerves out right now, honestly. Dee Dee, give us a rundown of what you do. You're probably more interesting than all of us, honestly, just from some of the background that you were talking about earlier. So give us a quick rundown. Humble brag.
Sure. So I am the worship leader at my church. I serve two congregations, the Spanish and the English. I also oversee two youth groups. So that's what I do in the community. I'm based in Oakland, California. My studies are in business, psychology, and leadership, which is probably my biggest passion because I feel like leaders really, really have a huge impact on not just society, the world, but everyday leaders make a difference in people's lives. So if I were ever to like write a book, it would be like some kind of leadership book, and it'd be something around like that, the everyday leader, which there is a TED Talk about that, by the way, if you ever look it up.
Let me ask you a question really quick.
Sure.
Leadership. We won't have to jump deep into it right now, but do you think leadership is like a general blueprint that you could apply across any like medium, or is it like really, really specific to whatever category you're approaching?
I think that depending on the audience, I think there's like really core, simple things that every leader should practice, no matter what level they're in. You know, like you could be the CEO of a company, but if you don't have really good relationships with at least key people, then you're not gonna have a lot of influence, or it'll be very limited. Yeah. So I do think that there are some like core principles that apply everywhere, but the audience does make a difference.
That's pretty much the key factor, right?
Yeah.
All right. I have a second question to kick this off to get everyone a little bit more in the conversation. So you're a worship leader. We'll ask everyone this. Like, who are like the top three people you listen to as far as music?
I listen to Chandler Moore. I listen to what's the Miranda Curtis? Mm-hmm. Miranda Curtis, she's fire. Yolanda Adams is a classic. And my fourth is like any kind of Jesus Culture, Bethel, like that kind of CCM category. Like you have to implement because I think that they have awesome songs.
What about you, Deborah?
Sounding by your voice, are you an alto?
I am. I am.
Same here. That's crazy.
Technically, I'm a mezzo soprano.
Okay.
Yeah. But I sing really.
She's like, I
really
sing
low.
so good.
No, I sing really low.
Do you have a vocal humidifier, though?
I do. I have a vocal humidifier.
That means she's a real singer.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I got one of those too. What do you guys? No, I don't. What, Deborah? Who
like,
do you
you're a
listen
singer?
to? No.
I listen to Maverick City. I am an old gospel girl, so I love choir stuff. Yolanda Adams is a classic. I can pretty much listen to anything across the board. I can listen to all types of music and pull some stuff from it. So,
But you don't have like a top three you go to probably normally
Maverick
right now?
City, I would say Maverick City, anything gospel choir.
So
'cause
you guys
that's
didn't
making its
listen
way
to
back.
anything a year ago? Because Maverick City's their...
It's like
Right.
just
Well, he
came
said
out.
go to now.
Yeah,
that's
go
true.
to now.
I
That's
didn't hear the
true.
now part.
Yeah.
So Maverick City, we have a playlist on Spotify of just like old school choir music, and I love like the Kim Walker Jesus Culture, but a few years ago, not like the super new stuff. A few years ago, like that rasp rock. I like that too.
Okay. What are you, John?
I don't.
You don't got nothing? You got no top three go to?
He's like, my
I
favorite
don't.
preacher is.
No. What's that guy's name? Solomon?
I'm trying to think of who. I don't know.
He just
he a
acoustic
rapper?
guitar.
Oh yeah, on YouTube. No,
think that's
that guy's
a no.
actually legit. Actually,
Yeah, I like that guy.
Joseph Solomon,
Joseph
right?
Solomon. He covers a lot of songs just he's a really good singer.
He's really dynamic. Like he sing a lot of different stuff.
But no, whatever the girls listen to in the car, whatever they want, I'll just put it on and kind of go from there. Tanya listens to like, what is it, 90.1? I don't know. Caleb.
Caleb.
I'm like,
Caleb's a no-go. I'll say that. Caleb's a no-go for us.
no. But she could listen to it all day. I'm like, nah. I like that guy.
I have teenagers, so they listen to a bunch of new stuff. So they pretty much run what I listen to in the car,
And then you just weed out what you don't like.
which is not much.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some stuff,
Freedom.
like I sent you that new song
Yeah.
by Maverick City, The Voice of God. Although that's not my style, I appreciate how they presented that.
Yeah.
It was just, that
Yeah,
song, The Voice of
Dante
God.
Brown.
I thought it was very authentic and raw almost.
Yeah.
So,
That's what I liked about it too. I like PJ Morton. You guys know who PJ Morton is?
Yes.
He's the best songwriter in the world. Smokey Norfolk.
oh,
I know, dig
snap.
crazy. And then I like cliche stuff right now, like Kanye's Sunday choir or Sunday service choir,
I
and then
could do
Chance the Rapper.
Kanye. We could
Yeah.
do Kanye.
Yeah, his Sunday service choir. That choir is
That's cool.
amazing.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Their version of Sunshine, the original Clark Sisters song, is so good.
I didn't know he
It's
had one.
so good.
That's Naya's like favorite song. So my daughter watched the Clark Sisters movie. I don't know what the
It's
name.
so good.
And she was like on Clark Sisters every day forever, and we're like, okay, we're good now. We know all the songs. So
Yeah,
I'll have to
Sunshine's
have her
my
listen to
favorite.
it.
You still listen to Fetty Wap?
Who?
I forgot about that guy. That guy's got some fire songs. That guy's- I like Fetty Wap. I'm not gonna lie.
I don't even know. Who
I
that
have
is.
Yeah, I
zero
know.
idea who that is. Is he
Oh,
a
she's
rapper?
from Oakland. So Oakland is who? Come on, Devin. What's
There's a lot of people from Oakland. Sorry, I spilled
That's
stuff
okay.
on the
I'm
table.
old,
The
so it'd be
Hawkins?
like no.
Oakland. There's a lot of people from Oakland. There's E40 from Oakland. G-Eazy came from the. He is in Sound Bay area. The actor Zendaya, who's in the Spider-Man movie, she's from Oakland. Sway in the Morning, he's from Oakland. There's a lot-
Is Keisha
Devin
Cole from
Martinez.
Oakland?
Yeah.
I wouldn't be
Keisha
surprised.
Cole's from
She's
Oakland.
You could probably sing that song. What's your favorite one? I mean, what's your popular one? Love.
Yeah.
I know you know it.
Yeah, I know it. I know it. I do.
Sister.
Oh, the Sundays choir, they did
Let's get back to
they
church.
did the I get so weak in the knees. What's
Did
that song
they
called?
really?
Yes, they did it, but they made it like a
Alicia
worship
Keys?
song. No, it's SV, the old 80s.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
They do everything.
Yeah.
They did.
do a lot of stuff.
They did "Say My Name" like by Destiny's Child, but they did it the gospel version of it, and then they did. They do a lot of songs like that. They're really
Do
good.
that.
Yeah.
They
I
sang a
asked-
choir song that sounded so cool.
He's all pulling it up on the
I
recording.
am right now.
Getting demonetized. On
That's
YouTube.
how
I asked my
the good Lord
pastor
works.
if we could do the SV whatever, because it's like a worship song now. I asked my pastor, can we sing this on Sunday? And it was like a hard no. Like, yeah, it was like hard like no.
See, I think that yeah, it depends. It has to fit your church. I wouldn't do it personally. Do I not like his music, or will I not let my kids listen to it? No, but yeah, for me that would be a no too.
I would like to try it because we're located. We're having, obviously, with the pandemic, we're having church outside, and where we're located is like in the middle of like East Oakland, where people walk by, and so I could see like doing a song like that, and people saying like, oh wow, like
is
something
that?
to
Their
attract
attention.
people, yeah, grabbing their attention, something to relate to, because if people come off the street, people don't know like worship songs if that's
Very
not
true,
something
that's
they
very
listen
true.
to all the
I could
time.
see you like rapping like the part and
I've
then going
always
into it.
wanted to. I've always wanted to rap, but no one lets me.
Yeah, I
No
think
one.
that's-
Or beatbox. Remember the beatbox? Nobody lets me beatbox.
They're holding you back. That's what it is.
I think so.
She's like, hold on, I got this verse. Hold on.
Like, hold on. I got like 3 bars. Just let me get them out.
One day I'm just gonna do it and just. If I'm the worship leader, shouldn't I be allowed to
Yeah,
have
of
that
course.
liberty,
Yeah.
that
And
flow? Yeah.
Just
If
let
you
it
were
go.
on my worship team, I'd say no. But you're part of another church,
What's
so I'm
funny
like,
is I was on her worship team and she said no. So
Wow.
So there are some questions that we were going to ask, but we didn't because we weren't recording yet. So we're like, okay, we're just going to throw them out there. So I'm just be straightforward with it. John had one. What was the one about women in ministry, right? Or women in leadership positions in ministry? Was that
wait,
one?
Yeah, go ahead. What's your take?
So,
No,
well, no, that's what it is.
What's
That's
the
what it is.
question?
What is your opinion on? Because it's like I feel like it's so random across the board with everybody. I don't really have. An
I was
opinion
just
on
talking
it.
about this with someone earlier, and then he brought it up for some reason.
Oh, my
just
dad was
right
watching
now.
he was watching a John MacArthur video talking
And
about
John
it.
MacArthur writes a book. It's called Different by Design. It's a pretty interesting book, and it's all about women in leadership. And
But is that book about women leadership specifically like in ministry or just across the board?
No, just in ministry. Anything that has to do with the church. He's
Okay,
pretty
see, I
much
didn't know
saying
that.
is
Wait, even outside the church?
no,
or just
inside church.
Oh, okay, never mind.
He's just his opinion is let's just have the women be quiet. Now that's his opinion in church, and that's about it.
So I grew up with two very strong women in my life, and they were both in ministry my entire life. And they were in ministry and leaders at a time in our organization where it wasn't very common to have women in leadership positions. I have my dad's a pastor, and he's very supportive of women in ministry and of women leaders. So my upbringing kind of conditioned me to just believe, like, yeah, women can lead, like, especially if there's a gap and we don't have enough leaders, like, why not let women, lead? And then, yeah, so my, obviously,
You trying to lay hands too?
I'm not against it. I'm not.
It's like, why not?
Dina's like, are you sick?
She does it, John falls down.
I'm like, do you
can't
need
handle
prayer right now?
She just has those heavy hands. John can't handle it, huh?
Like she pushed me down. It wasn't. It was a push.
If you want me to pray for you right now, I'm down.
My mom was sick. When was she? Last week. And my little niece Naya is hilarious. I think she's the funniest little girl. And Deborah and I went to go pick her up from the emergency room, right? And you know how you can't go in there. And so they pick her up. And my mom was, I don't know, she was dizzy. She was a lot of vertigo. And so I'm telling Naya, lay hands on her, because she's on speaker. And me and Tanya are at the house. And I was like, I can't. Not on the forehead. But the way she does it, it's just so funny. But women in ministry. I'd like to hear more about what you have to say about
Okay, well,
Leadership in ministry, right?
that. Everything, whatever.
Okay.
well, is the question like, are they capable? Because obviously, I think so.
Everyone should give their opinions on it and then go from there. That'll be a better conversation because then it don't put too much pressure on like one.
Well, what's the
answer,
question?
you know
What
Well,
would be the question?
well, the question would be like, John, what do you think about the level of leadership women should have in ministry? Is there a cap on it? Does it stop at some point?
I think it would have to be on kind of what house you're involved with, like what church you go to, and then you kind of go from there. At our church, we've had women pray before service, start service, preach. So with us, we're a little bit more on the liberal side of that. There's some women at our church, they're slapping hands on you too. So, I don't have no problem with that. They're just, I think the old school way of thinking is no, women aren't allowed in ministry. And I get that too. So I guess it would have to determine on what church you're going to, and you'd kind of follow those rules that are set in place, those guidelines.
Makes sense.
Yeah. I'd say that our church is probably on the more liberal side because we have a certain structure. For example, we have small groups.
Yeah.
And so women lead small groups, and in maybe more conservative times, they would lead like an all women's small group. But now they can, at least at my church, they can actually lead like a general group. Like I have a small group with young men and young women, and I lead the group with, us together. And so I do think at our church, there are certain, I don't want to say limitations, but the way we organize ourselves. So for example, we probably won't have like a female pastor, but we will have like female supervisors that supervise a bunch of general groups.
Would you go to a church where there's a female pastor?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
wouldn't mind. Yeah.
You would.
Yeah, I yeah, I totally would.
What do you think, Deborah?
So I feel like our church is kind of in the middle. We're not super liberal with it, but not super conservative either. I happen to be a leader of one of the larger groups here at our church, and I run the worship ministry. And that involves overseeing sound, anything having to do with PowerPoint, musicians, and then vocalist. And so it's one of the larger ministries, and I have complete backing from our pastor. And when I first started out, I sat in a meeting with him, and I just was kind of asking, like, is this okay? Is this not okay? And he sat across from me, and he said, if this wasn't okay, you wouldn't be in this position. And I was like, that's all I need. Since I've had some stories, and, you know, you get people in our church who are very traditional, and they're not okay with it, and then others that are like, yeah, you know, trailblazer. So one time I was leading worship, and for transitions, we have people come up. So someone comes up to do offering, or somebody does welcome, and then we start singing. So the minister for transition for offering didn't come up. So instead of there being dead time, I was like, I'll do it. So I picked up the offering, and didn't think it was a horrible idea. So after church, somebody comes up to me, and they're like, it was a woman, oh my gosh, that was so amazing. I can't believe you picked up offering. You just like did it like that. You didn't wait for anybody. And I'm like, okay. And then she follows with, but my husband was so offended he walked out. I was like, okay. So
Random.
I'm okay with certain aspects of it. Didi and I have had this conversation before. And for me, I think where I draw the line is I feel like there are very, very capable, strong women who should be leading. Where I see a problem is when women start to project themselves as men, like with their mannerisms and the way they speak, and they like do all that. Then I'm like, you're trying too hard. Just stay in your lane. Like, lead well, lead strong, be a woman of character and of prayer, and lead that way. You don't have to change how you're acting or presenting to try, because the message it sends, in my opinion, is I'm trying to be equal with a man. I don't want to be equal with a man. Mm-hmm. I want to be who I am, who God created me to be, but also lead strongly. So.
Okay, I got one. Favorite woman preacher? Do you even know any? Do you have any? Who?
I can't pronounce her name, but Pryor? Schreier. Yeah, Schreier. Priscilla Schreier. Yeah, I really, really like the way she speaks. And I forget. I feel like I have a blank, but actually I don't listen to a lot of female preachers. I listen to a lot more podcasts.
Contradicting.
No, it's true. I listen to like a lot more like podcasts, a lot more.
I want it to happen. I just don't follow them, or I'm not behind.
I'm like, I believe in them, but you know, no. But yeah, Priscilla Schreier, she's probably my favorite of the two that I listen to.
My favorite is Sister Yolanda at The Good Life in Modesto. Outside of that, I don't really know any.
I would say Priscilla Schreier. I've been listening to a lot of Jackie Hill Perry lately. I think she's super good.
So good. Okay, see, I know her too.
Back in the day, it would have been Juanita Bynum. That was like years and years ago, before she had a lot of conflict going on in her life. And then still one of my top to listen to is Cheryl Brady. I think she's super good too.
Yeah, Cheryl Brady's number one, and she could sing.
Yep.
She sings really, really good.
I don't really know any of these people, but I don't even think I have like an opinion on that. I kind of feel like it's just like, where are these people qualified in the problem that I might have that I'd be going to them with?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
sure.
Like, that's how I feel about it. I'm not really thinking like, or also it's like if I needed something from Deborah, I'd be like, okay, she's qualified to give me an answer. But if it was something that like only a guy would understand, like obviously I'd go to a dude, you know? So I don't know what I think about that. But I know my dad was listening to a video on it, and he was just going in. He was like, I don't know, pretty much agreed with whatever MacArthur was saying, which is the
More
opposing side of
conservative
that. Yeah.
So I think it's interesting that you're saying that, because maybe growing up in the organization that we did, we're kind of conditioned a little bit. And so when I started leading worship, like with a team, and I was the lead, there wasn't like a male lead. It was like a huge thing. And I started doing that 16 years ago. And it was huge. Nobody was doing it then. Now I feel like you see all kinds of ladies leading worship. And I appreciated what you said about, you're pretty much trying to see like, okay, I need something from Deborah. If she can help me in that area, I will. And I think that's the whole staying in your lane that I'm talking about. It's recognize what your strengths are, and know who God is leading you to as a woman to minister to, and not trying to be like, oh, I'm here for everybody, because that's not true for any leader across the board.
Yeah.
So
I get in situations like if I had like a girl issue, I would talk about it with my guy friends. But when the substance, I'm 100%, I'm going to some girl. I'm going to my mom. I'm going to go to my friends that are girl, something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's a bunch of subjects I guess you can get specific with like that. But that's generally what I was alluding to.
Yeah, just to add to that. So recently, so I also I'm leading the worship team at my church, and there are our musicians are mostly guys. And I noticed that there was like a need. We needed to have some kind of like Bible study, or just like a little bit more input into them. Like let's bless them. They come and they serve every week, but there's not necessarily a space for them to just kind of be themselves and kind of this so I asked two of the older gentlemen on our team, and I was like, would you be willing to mentor these guys, and would you be willing to have like a Bible study with them? And they started it a month ago. And the reason I did that was because I know that I cannot relate to them or their issues or the things that they're going through in life as a woman. Like there's just no way. So why not help them get the help that they need? And I think that's important for leaders to understand, right?
Yeah.
The whole stay in your lane and know where you can, reach out and kind of, help your team.
Here's a good way to segue this into a conversation that could get a little bit more interesting. So it's kind of on this topic. So when it comes to being led by male or female, one time I was having a conversation with somebody, and it was a female, and I didn't mean this in a negative way. I said, oh my gosh, I really don't like being interviewed by women. I don't enjoy it, because in relationships,
Let him
there
finish.
is, I know, let me explain
I'm
why.
leaving.
Because when it comes to getting a job, it's not that the woman is looking down on you. It's just that there's already such a gap of communication between men and women when they love each other, that it's like stuff goes out the window sometimes. So when you are just meeting someone the first time, especially over the phone or something like that, it's hard. It's hard. It would be hard if I was a girl getting interviewed by a guy. You know what I mean? So I said that, and then she took offense to it, and I was like, no, I don't mean this in like I don't like one way, like they aren't good interviewers. I'm just looking for like the easiest path to get my foot in the door. You know what I mean? So if I could talk to a guy, I know that there's things I could do to kind of butter him up a little bit, maybe relate to him with. The communication game's a little bit better. So that's why I didn't like being interviewed by a woman. When it comes to being led like that in the workplace, right, I think the same issues are still there. Obviously, the variables are dependent on the type of person, if they look down on women or if they don't, right? There's a lot of things we could bring into it. But do you see that in your career as far as like, I don't know, men and women in the workplace or in any setting having like issues based on communication, not necessarily like people looking down on each other? We'll get into that after, but yeah. Do you see a lot of miscommunication between men and women in the workplace?
I wouldn't say miscommunication. So I work in HR, and it's actually predominantly women. So I work in a very female like department and organization, because I work in one unit, but across the entire organization, it's mostly women. And because of our specialties that's supposed to be interpersonal, relationships, I actually don't see a communication breakdown as much as I do in other units. For example, the folks that work in IT, and they have, you know, like female managers. Like there I see a little bit of like a gap, but that has to do with just kind of the way they think. And
In IT, the culture they come from.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So and I really do think it depends. I would never say generally that a direct report would have an issue with like a female manager. Like I don't think I would feel comfortable. I do think it depends on the situation and the culture.
Do you see it at work, John?
I don't see it at work. I don't.
Not really paying attention to that type of stuff.
When I was on campus, there's mostly, teachers are, I would say about 80% of them are women, 85% of them. But no, you kind of stay in your own lane too. You have your own classroom. You don't come out unless it's lunch. But
Yeah.
I don't see it that way. I don't know. I never even thought of it, to be honest.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
I would think that, so in my opinion, I would think that like men would prefer a woman manager. And the reason why I say that is because studies show that like women are more attentive, like listening, and that women are, they want to have like this two-way communication and really understand your situation, whereas like men are less inclined to want to like listen. They're more direct and want to have, and I'm making total generalizations,
but it's
but
true. Yeah.
like they'll give you directives, but not necessarily hear like how are you doing, or like how's your day going, how's your family going. That's not as common. Whereas female managers, actually, most people like female CEOs for that same reason, because they care more about like how you've been, and if you need more time off, they're sensitive to those needs. So.
I think some guys, though, could take that as somewhat of offensive talk. Like, I'm fine. Why? Is there something,
Yeah.
I definitely think it's more pleasant. Not even think. It's definitely more pleasant working with a female manager. Because I've had like, with half of the clients I've had, like I've literally worked with almost all females, because in marketing, that's just how it is a lot of the time. But I will say this, it's much easier to work with male managers or male management, because I'm a male and there's a particular way that you can talk to them without them feeling disrespected. So I could say the same thing to a guy, and it shouldn't be, but it is okay for me to talk to a guy a particular way without having to be worried about emotions or social cues or anything like that. Like I could tell someone, shut up, basically. I'm not going to say that to a female. Like that's not, it's very rude.
Yeah, you shouldn't say
Yeah,
that.
no, yeah. But I could say, but with guys, like in like that type of culture, you can kind of be that way, so it does make it a little bit easier. But I just want to ask your opinion on that, because you
I have
obviously
a question. So related to that, and something that you mentioned. So if, let's say, a woman was okay talking like that, and say instead of you saying shut up, a woman said shut up, how would you take that? Like, what do you think about that?
I've had like conversations where they've said that, and I'm like, okay, that's fine. Like, it's not, for me when I do it, it's not based off of like us not being on the same level. It's based off of like, I wouldn't talk to my mom and tell her to shut up. I'm not going to tell some other lady who's older than me and work longer than me to shut up. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I'll tell some dude the same age as her, shut up. Like, I'll go in on them if I have to. You know what I mean? Maybe it's just a cultural thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
But that's kind of why I don't like doing it, because I have some like inclination where I'm like, I can't go off on you, so I can't break down doors with you. I gotta chill.
Yeah, the only reason why I asked that is because sometimes you could have a really strong female manager, and that, will be direct. Because I think, like, when a woman is direct, folks can be like, oh, wow, she's really aggressive and really mean, and they'll describe her in a way, but she's just being, like, straight to the point. And for whatever reason, I feel like that's okay for men to be, but then when a woman's like that, it's like, I don't know.
It's true. It's true. No, it's true. But I think it's kind of like, let's just say this. Like, let's say you and Deborah have these mannerisms because you're female. Let's just say I start using some of those mannerisms. It would obviously stand out, right? Not because it's not because you guys are trying to be like, hey, don't act that way. It's just because it's so obvious. You know what I mean? I think it's to me, that's one of those things, like Deborah said earlier, like if people start acting slightly different, it's going to stand out, and you're going to be like, whoa, what's going on? Just be yourself type of thing.
Right. I was going to say, I think it's what's behind that person, because I know some very strong, assertive women, and that's just their personality. That's how they are. They're not rude or anything. But then I do know some who are overcompensating for maybe really being insecure. And so I think whatever's behind that, you see more than just what's in your face.
Yeah.
Let's go into the pay gap. Let's go into the pay gap, guys.
Well,
I'm
didn't you just have a study
shotgunning
on
stuff
that?
out there.
Yes, the gender pay gap. So studies show that men make at least 12% more.
Who made that study?
Who made that study? It's quote,
Some woman.
Some woman.
There's
yeah.
actually a few of them too. There's a
Yeah,
few of
yeah.
them,
So it's actually proven that men make more money than women. They've actually been in the workforce longer too, historically. But I mean, what else can I say?
Do you think it's because they stay at work longer? I'm asking.
He asked me
I'm
this. So he
asking.
asked me this earlier. Do you think that men make more money because they stay at work longer? And I was like, no. It has to do with. So there's this show on Hulu called The American Woman or something like that, and it's awesome. And it's basically about the Equal Rights Amendment, and it was essentially, the amendment that helped women like actually work, and and it's really interesting because what folks don't know, at the time they were arguing that most women wanted to be at home. Like, the more conservative side was like, women want to be at home. They don't want to work. They don't want to earn their own money. They want to stay home. And then there was like this whole other population that was like, no, like we want to earn our own income. We don't own anything.
My wife wants to stay at home. I'm just saying.
I work really hard, and sometimes I'm just like, dude, I just want to stay at home and do yoga all day and wear like yoga pants all day.
Right.
That sounds great, But what the show really highlights is that just women just didn't have this choice, right? And so when we think about this pay gap, there was so long where women were oppressed and not able to earn their own income, own their own property, have anything to their own name. Everything had to be done like either by their husbands or their fathers, and there was just like zero independence.
What year was that?
The 70s,
70s?
60s, 70s, and then prior to that too.
They couldn't own property in their 70s?
In the 60s.
In the 70s?
In the
Wow, I didn't know
60s.
that. I'm
Yeah.
going to have to fact check that.
Yeah, I'm like, ooh, I hope that's right. No, but yeah, so this whole the show takes place during that time, and for me, someone who was born in the 90s, I couldn't imagine like not having a job. I can't imagine not being able to vote. I can't imagine like not being able to own my own car, things like that.
Did you say vote?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Vote.
So
Vote. Are we gonna
it's
start
almost
going into
voting. It's voting time.
Are we gonna talk about elections?
So I probably fall
Snap.
somewhere. Well, okay. What's your opinion on that? Well, first, Deborah, what's your opinion
know
on
Deborah.
that?
I would like to say my opinion. I think if you're a Christian.
Well, I don't think it is polite to cut women off in conversation.
No, I was like, dang.
I was gonna say, well, I want to hear hers first.
It's our show. It's our show. And it's my sister, so it's
We're
different.
the invited guests.
Their siblings is
This
different.
is my office.
No, go ahead. Say what you're going to say.
No, go ahead.
No. Because now you forgot. Go ahead.
I did forget.
First, do you even vote? I'm going to just start.
I do
Okay.
vote. Are we talking about voting, or are we talking
No,
about?
we're talking about the pay gap.
Oh, I thought we were
gap,
talking about
gender
voting
pay
now.
gap.
Okay,
Okay.
so I was going to make a joke and say I'm a stay-at-home mom. My husband is our sole income, so I appreciate that he gets paid 12% more. Okay, so I will say this. Dee Dee was saying, there was a time when women weren't given the choice to work and to own property and all that. But I personally think it's a little bit offensive. Like, I don't get irate or anything when women who stay home are viewed as like that's the easy way of life, because I'm a mother of 4 children, and not being a good mom, that's an easy life. But being a good mom and being an excellent mom, there's a difference. Being an excellent mom and purposely getting yourself to a place, knowing what you're trying to do in the lives of your children and your husband, and putting all of your efforts in to raise people who love and fear God, to raise people who are great community advocates, people who are kind. That's not an easy job. And so when I hear women who say, you know, we're expected to stay home and do this as if it's like an easy thing. That's offensive to me as a stay-at-home mom.
So glad you said that, because I used to get in big old arguments with people on Twitter where I'd be like, like arguing for that side. Like, if you want to stay home and have kids, that's not a bad thing. It's just what you want. It's the same thing as wanting to go to work. Like, do what you want. Like, he's just so frustrating. What do you think, John?
She just set you back, huh?
No, I was gonna say I totally agree because the point is that choice, right? So, it's like. It's not, first of all, it's not even easy just being a woman. Like, if you calculate our costs in, like, how we're supposed to look and just, like, there's so many layers to this conversation.
It's real easy being a man, but go ahead.
Kinda. Yeah. Well, men made it easy to be a man in society. You know, the guys that constructed, like, all of our laws and everything, they made it real easy. Our education system.
Fighting wars, you know, going to battle. Yeah, that's really easy.
You know, I like to think that if women were involved in like these conversations, like, you know, like that before this, you know, all the wars, the world
there would
wars,
be no war.
Yeah, there would be no war because they'd probably have, you know,
We'd be
these
going to war every other
conversations.
month. We go to war every
No,
other
because
month.
they would talk out their feelings and get it out without needing to.
You guys
have
would be
people
like,
die.
wait, what Queen Elizabeth say? Oh, she said that? I bet you she meant this. You'd be going pillaging villages and stuff like that.
That's so funny. But no, it is not. Like, I really like that you highlighted that. Being a stay-at-home mom is not the easy way out. In fact, a lot of my friends who are moms, they prefer to go to work because they're like, I get to get away from my kids. Like, it's a break. But that's just a joke. It's just a joke, Deborah.
I've heard that side too. I've heard, you know, people who have to women who have to stay home for whatever reason. They're like, I'm ready to go back to work. This is not for me. And I appreciate that. But do you hear the other side of it often? No, you don't. So.
It's very.
Who's your favorite politician?
Wait, John, I want to hear John's opinion on that.
No,
first.
yeah,
Where's
no,
the
you
pay
need to
gap? Go with the
finish
pay gap. The pay gap.
I got to see the studies. No. I don't know. I think there's a pay gap in certain industries because there's less women. So the pay gap could be there. But I don't think you could just throw a blanket statement out there and say this is why, because we're women. No, there's industries that men have been a part of a lot longer than women, so there might be a pay gap in there, and so on. So to throw a blanket statement out there like that, I don't know. I got it.
But if a woman has the same experience,
Oh,
and
we're
is
not
in the
talking
same,
about that. We're talking about a blanket statement.
But that's the point though, is like
In what industry?
they're women who have the same experience, same credentials. And so there was a study done at not Stanford. Was it Stanford? There was a study done and they looked at a resume of and they had the same resume, same exact credentials, but all they did was change the names, right? One was a woman, it is at Stanford because it was the Gender Institute. So they sent out these resumes to a bunch of HR hiring managers, and they took the names out and they said, which one would you choose? But it was the same thing. But then they changed the names so that they were, let's say both male names. And they were both hired at the same rate. However, when you change the name to one female name, one male name, then the male was hired or got more callbacks than the female's resume. But the resumes were the same.
Wow.
But all that changed was the
Kind of
names.
like polls, huh?
All that changed was the names.
I don't know. I'm just
But I
saying.
think that's a good point.
Yeah.
Is like some industries, like we're conditioned to believe that men are better at certain things than women.
Well, how many
and
women
that's true
are in the
sometimes.
stock market? That's some big money right there. How many women are in the CEOs and and crazy companies like that? So that you have to take that into consideration. What do you think about?
I think that there's some numbers that Didi's talking about that are like undeniable. So they're not really based on opinion. Now, that being said, data doesn't always mean context. They're just numbers for us to reference, and then we make our opinions based off of that, right? So the stuff that you're saying, like what they did with the resumes, I can't deny none of that. The only part, I think that the pay gap comes, majority of it, from The only thing culture that has an impact on it, I think, is the fact that we didn't teach girls growing up how to negotiate or be combative in situations where there's negotiating. But I don't necessarily believe that the biggest impact on it is like males looking down on women, because that is true in the workplace. Like males look down. People will look down on everybody. It doesn't matter who you are. If they see a weakness, they're going to be like, there is no emotion in business. There is zero.
But I also think it's wrong. Don't get me wrong. Okay, I do believe it's wrong if two people have the same credentials and one is getting paid higher just because of their gender. I do believe that's wrong. But that being said, I like to.
Well, it could be based on gender. I'm not going to say that that's not a variable. Everything's a variable. But I think that when it comes to this conversation, the reason I don't know what to think about it is because business and money, like I love business, but it's not a game based off of morals. It just will never be. Business is not, it's not like a clean thing to be involved with if you don't have the right motives. And businesses and men are not concerned about hiring people based off of gender and that. They're more concerned about what is the margins of payout this person. So it doesn't matter if you're male or female, they will hire someone cheaper just for it, because that price on the dollar, if they could hire everyone at 75 cents on the dollar compared to somebody else, they would do it.
I agree. And I just want to add, like, there's like this added layer, but that's where bias comes in. Because see, no one's conscious, like no man, no matter, at least I think, no matter how maybe, immoral the person is, they're not going to look at a candidate and be like, oh, well, I like the man better, and consciously say that.
For sure.
They're just going to make a quick decision and say, this is who I'm going to choose. And if it happens to be a man.
Well, I had my female principal say she likes hiring men. I'm not lying, more than women.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, some
you
people
might
are
have a
very-
man say that. I don't know.
You might, but what I'm saying is like it's not as likely, and that's the point. Like that's why it's an issue, because if there are a lot of hiring managers that will just kind of quick, and if you worked in staffing, so if you quickly review resumes and you're just making these decisions quickly, you have to reprogram yourself. So I feel like it's not just, people don't want to hire women. It's that as a society, we've been conditioned in such a way, and historically, women have to catch up. Like men have been in the workforce
they
longer.
have to catch up.
So it's like
Oh my God!
I'm glad you agree with me. I'm
wasn't
glad
being
you
funny.
agree with me.
I'm tired of this podcast.
This is my last podcast.
I'm just playing. I got 3 girls, so I know how to. And I even, like Devin said about negotiating, I let my kids negotiate when it comes to money. My middle one, man, she's a shark. She's really good at putting things together. If me and Tanya get a package, I'll give her money to put it together. And I got this big old weightlifting set package. And so a couple weeks ago, she put a bench together for me as a lifting bench. It took her like 3 hours, but she did it. Gave her a few bucks. Then another package came in last week. I said, I'll give you $20. Go put it together. She's like, how about 22? And I was like, yeah, go ahead. Go get 22. But yeah, to negotiate, I want her to be paid as well as a man if she has the same credentials. That's, who wouldn't want that? But in society, it does seem like we are paid a little bit more. And I wasn't trying to be funny, but it is the issue of women barely getting into the workforce, 50 years ago? Mm-hmm. And so that's why we're so ahead of women when it comes to pay.
Yeah.
Back to my question that you were dodging. Who's your favorite female politician?
Oh, you're asking me.
Yeah. 'Cause I know you said you like politics, right?
I do like politics. But I will, with the caveat, it's like I like to talk about politics and how it relates to like religion, because I feel like I come from a very, very conservative background where it was more like, we don't talk about politics. Like, you don't talk about politics, we just pray and we just, let things happen. And that's where I have an issue. And actually, most of my areas of like study and organizing have to do around local politics. and community organizing. Going back to my favorite female politician.
She's like
However,
AOC.
So I was going to say, I don't agree. There's no
Oh my God.
politician that I agree with 100%.
Okay.
None. Like, there's none
I
because
thought
no
you were
one's
gonna say
perfect.
her. Oh, you are.
I am going to say, I'm not going to say her, but I
Okay.
am going to say that she is one of the most charismatic politicians I've ever, and that's why everyone loves her. She's just so
Everybody?
charismatic. Well,
I seen the
she has a really
documentary
big
on her.
follower-
Did you see that documentary?
following. Yeah.
I thought it was. She's a hard worker. She's a hustler. She's a go-getter. I respected that about her, and that's about it. But go.
She really would be the polar side of the spectrum if you were to look at what would be like the left's Trump. You know what I mean? Like someone who speaks well, who has a particular brand that can really build a following. So I don't really agree with Trump, but you can't deny the following that dude has. Same with AOC. I'm not really an AOC person, but it's kind of undeniable.
Yeah, I just think she's super charismatic and she's accomplished a lot. Like as a young female, like I think and she's a Latina, like she's a woman of color. She's so.
Do you think that's helped her today in 2020,
It has
especially
to.
being on the left? Do you think that she would have the same position and same following if she was a white man, even if she had the same opinions?
No, that's totally helped her.
Yeah.
Totally
Yeah,
helped
yeah.
her.
Her
Like
gender
no
helped
question.
her?
I'm so glad
Yeah.
you said that because we had a friend that was like, I don't know. I think maybe.
No, yeah, for sure. Because she's basically the politician. That's what she says a lot. She's like, I'm the everyday person. We need to be led by an everyday person that is a part of the community.
I know. Just like 2 years ago, she was a bartender. Yeah,
She
it's
was
amazing.
working at a restaurant. She was a waitress.
She's a bartender. Yeah,
I was like,
it's
what the heck did I go to
amazing.
school for? Anyway.
That's a
but
joke, my God.
Anyway, yeah. So, I keep dodging the question.
No, I'm just asking. I was just joking.
I do have a question that I want to, unless you want to keep going deeper into this.
No, what is it? The elections are what, like 20 days away?
It's pretty close.
Something really close.
There's
Right
one
in
thing that
Kanye's
I
name
think
then.
we should just say.
Oh,
is
yeah, go
I
ahead.
really do think that churches should know, or be informed about politics. I
Right.
think that they shouldn't just.
Do you think they
say
should
we're
vote?
not- Yeah.
Yeah, so do I.
Yeah, I think so. And the reason why I think that is because there are a lot of legislation that affects us.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and if we're not aware, so in my church, we serve a predominantly Latino community and they're predominantly undocumented.
Mm-hmm.
So they're not as aware or informed of their rights, the decisions that affect them. And so I feel that it's my duty as a leader in the church to get involved in things that affect them, and be their advocates. So that's why I'm super passionate about it, because when we choose to kind of turn a blind eye to it, then we're being affected. We're constantly going to be affected by legislation, and we're going to be blindsided by certain
Yeah.
things.
No, for sure. What? You okay?
Nothing.
Jeez, I'm not being sarcastic in everything I say. No, I do think everyone needs to vote. I don't say what party to vote for. I just say.
Why not? I'm just kidding.
Well, you know what party to vote for when you're voting for righteousness, No, but to be honest, you have to vote for things that are close to our biblical standards, of course. And not every party has them, You might vote red for one thing and blue for another, and I don't think you can vote everything on the same side of the aisle each and every time. So it gets a little tricky with that. And it even gets a little tricky to say if you're a Republican or Democrat. So, but to be informed, you need to be informed. You need to not just cast your vote out there on an emotional vote, but to cast it with some information. Is that okay?
That's really woke of you to say as a pastor. I just want to say that's really woke of you to say as a
I am
pastor.
opposite of woke. Believe me, I am totally opposite of woke. I was trying to be publicly, not publicly. No, I'm not even
Politically
correct.
correct. Yeah.
No, not even that, because it's like this election is very important, because we have some shady people out there that are, they want to take this country that was founded on God and take it a whole different way. And so we need to cast the proper and right vote. You know where I'm
I
going
caught
with
your
that.
side.
So, okay.
If you believe it was founded on God, is that what you're gonna say?
Yeah.
Well,
I knew
So-
where you're going.
So the founded on God, I just like to always pause when we say it, because that's I've said it before. We've all, and that's very common to say, especially in church, like, oh, this country that was founded on God. And it's like, what God are we talking about? Because we have to always remember that this country was founded on the Western Christian, Euro-Christian kind of beliefs. And those beliefs brought are why we had like colonization. Those beliefs justified massacres and a
well,
lot
it
of
didn't
really
justify.
ugly things.
It was man that interpreted.
Yeah,
that
I think the genome across the
in
board,
a way,
regardless of
you know?
religion, is pretty much like
Yeah.
just covered in blood. Basically.
Yeah.
And so
But that's the thing. Like when we say like it was founded on God,
It's not true. Huh?
it's not.
Well-
Yeah, that I wouldn't say it's not true.
but you're just saying it's not
I'm
true.
just saying it's not true. I'm just saying that what they did was they said they did all these things,
Yeah.
and
The
they
name of God.
justified their actions
So-
using religion and saying it was God's
well,
will.
you could go back to the New Testament and just look at the different sects back then, and they burned the apostles, and they did it all in the name of Yahweh, So you see it all throughout history. But
Yeah.
that doesn't mean it wasn't founded on God back then. It was man's interpretation and man's zeal and man's own problems that they had in their own heart. And a lot of them were, like, look at Paul. He was killing Christians thinking he was doing the will of God. So it was man that skewed what God's intentions were.
Yeah, but those are the men that founded this country.
Well-
that's the only
Yeah.
thing. That's why I have an issue when we say that. So and not that we say that, but that we have to clarify that we, when we say we are Christians, we represent the gospel that is the true, gospel, like the book of Acts, like love and righteousness and grace and power. And I feel like that has to be a distinction, because what society knows is the Euro-Christian, mentality. So that's why when, I have a lot of conversations with like folks at school, and their perspective of a Christian is like, oh, well, you're one of those,
yeah,
like,
you hate gay people.
Yeah,
you're-
Say that, yeah.
exactly.
Well,
yeah.
that's one side, because the other side is all inclusive, So what side, it just depends on who you're talking to. You might say it's not founded on God, well, someone else might say it is. Well, what country is founded on God? What city? What state? What church is directly in tune with everything?
I kind of think like Western morality is majority founded on like our doctrine. I would assume, because like that's not to say that I can completely understand it. I don't think I disagree with what you're saying. I just think that you can't weed out the good that comes along with it too. There could be a ratio that maybe there's more bad than good, but I still think a lot of the morality we have, whether you're a believer or not, comes from the Christian doctrine, from the Bible, whether people know it or not. It's just what the West was, you know what I mean? So there's definitely a lot of mistakes. Like we were burning people because like milk went sour. And we're like, oh, they're a witch. Burning people, you know what I mean? Like that's not good. It's not good.
Right.
It happened, but the positives that we have today, there are still like a lot of things in our culture that came from that doctrine that are from the Bible. I don't know
That is true. Like I do believe the Bible is like the moral document of like
whether they know it or not. It's just
that is true, and that goes back to him saying like people's interpretation of
Now
it.
it's him. But go ahead.
Like Pastor
What's your name
John.
again?
That
No,
was
it's him.
Pastor John's point.
Because she doesn't agree. Back to him.
No. It was definitely interpretation, but I just like to pause and say, we have to acknowledge that history as Christians.
Yeah, that's true.
You know,
is
because
important.
then it makes you think like, man, what church is perfect?
Well, I understand what you're saying, though. You're like, you got to throw it out there because it needs to be acknowledged. You can't just sweep it under the rug, but you're not trying to throw a blanket statement on all of us, basically, right?
No,
Yeah,
she is.
and that's what people have called me out on actually because I'm not on Instagram right now, but when I was on Instagram, if I posted about God wants to save and God wants to bless you, I would get responses from folks that were students and stuff, and they're like, when you say these things, like you have to also acknowledge like the history of Christianity. And I took it like with a grain of salt, but it's true. Like I was like, I completely understand and I agree. Especially when our goal is to try to win the lost. And we're trying to enter discussions and dialogue with people who are unchurched. You know? So I feel like it really.
Yeah, but anything divine in humanity's hand is like subject to error, or not error, but man will always distort.
Yeah.
Like how can we even handle what's divine, And so I see it, they're just being overly sensitive, and you're trying to accommodate that, but whatever. I guess truth doesn't matter no more.
Remember when I said you were woke? I take that back.
Yeah,
She's
like, what's truth? Your truth?
Truth is relative. No, I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding. I promise.
There are no
that's-
absolutes.
Yeah.
I wish you had more. Oh, gosh. I wish you had more time because I had a conversation.
We'll go 5 more minutes.
All right. I was having a conversation with my buddy on Facebook, and he's atheist. And we were talking about, I was pretty much presenting that topic with him. Like, hey, like if you were born in the West, whether you acknowledged it or not, like your morality, the majority of it was founded on religion. And he was like, no, it wasn't. Like I basically find my own path, I experience things, and I reference all my like experiences to like come up with my own conclusion. And then I was like basically trying to tell him like, like your ancestors from maybe 2 or 3 generations ago, they were probably believers, I would assume. He's like, yeah, but I didn't get any of that. And then I was like, well, if you feel like your white privilege and unconscious bias was passed through, like from your ancestors, why wouldn't their doctrine be passed through too? Like you want to assume that your all the negatives came from your ancestors and you found out all the good stuff, but probably more realistically, all the good stuff came from your ancestors and you picked up all that dirty laundry on the way from like learning it at school or learning it from what's going on today. You know what I mean? So I wanted to go a little bit more into it if we have more time, but I don't know if you have any opinions on that. How much do you think like doctrine like impacts stuff like, do you feel like it has a more positive impact today?
The word what?
Do you feel like people present doctrine in a way that has a more positive impact on culture today? Or do you feel like it's like getting watered down and we're not really presenting in a way to impact stuff?
That's a super good question. So, it's hard. It's a hard one. I think that times have changed. And I do think that as time changed, doctrine should never change.
Yeah.
However, what I think a conversation that should be had is what is doctrine and what is tradition and what is just cultural customs. Because I think that because there aren't distinctions there, we'll be like, oh, doctrine's getting watered down. And when I was, when I was growing up.
I think
or
some
whatever.
people don't recognize what's a dogma or a doctrine. And that's the
There you
problem.
go, Pastor John. That's what I'm talking about.
Oh, now I'm Pastor John. I'm not him no more. Okay. Anyways, no, but it's true. It's some of the doctrines when we were younger aren't doctrines. They're just dogmas. But you could abide by those set of guidelines that you preach, but don't say it's doctrine. Just like we do this because I feel, or it's a personal conviction compared to, nah, you're out of bounds. So I don't think, well, to some you're watering it down, but to others you're just preaching truth, and you choose not to preach dogmas. That's how I see it.
So
She's like, I'm not going to speak on this subject.
She's like, doctrine is getting watered down. All of you, I'm gonna pray for you.
so I'm for me, I just think gospel rather than doctrine. I think that's a very easy, just very simple way to distinguish. I think a lot of people on the conservative side or the opposite
Why'd you
call
look
a
at
lot
me?
of things. The conservative side or the opposite. No.
The liberal side.
Call a lot of things doctrine, and we're not trying to preach doctrine according to our opinion, but rather gospel, the gospel of the Bible, the good news that Jesus died, was buried, resurrected, and he saves and he loves and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because even doctrine has changed inside certain organizations where you come from. Like, you weren't allowed to be in church without a long white sleeve, shirt and tie. My uncle going to Bible college had to always have a tie and long white shirt, and so that has changed throughout the years. So different organizations are kind of just doing away from what they had called doctrine. And so I think as a whole, everyone's kind of pushing forward to more truth than dogmas, I would say. Now, how fast? That's another question. Sometimes we want them to be a lot quicker and changing, but that might cause more damage than anything.
It's very deep, guys. This is very deep. I feel like we can go another hour on this, but I know that we're getting close to the end. Dee Dee, is there anything you want to throw out there to kind of give people a shout out to? We get
Do you have a
millions of
boyfriend?
views and whatnot. Oh, that's a great question.
I don't know. Are you married?
I'm married to Jesus Christ.
Oh, gosh. Amen.
I'm in a serious relationship with my Lord and Savior. Not Jesus, not Chewy. Nah, I'm just kidding. One thing that I want to say to the young women, because I feel like that's why I was like kind of invited, but I am.
Wait, are you married?
No, I'm not married.
Oh, okay.
I'm not married.
Are you engaged?
I'm not engaged. I'm single. At
Oh,
the
okay,
moment.
okay. I don't know. Kind of-
And
How old are you?
I'm.
How do I look?
The other day I went
And
to
you
the
have a
gas.
master's already? Wow. I caught that you said you live by yourself, so you're
You're an independent, strong Mexican
strong
woman.
I'm like, were you talking to that scammer that called me?
Oh, that's
the
another
other
one.
day?
She has to tell that story another time, but that's a good one.
No, I really want to, whoever's watching this, hope they're encouraged by this really cool
going
discussion.
viral.
I hope it goes viral, but that, Christians are involved in all kinds of conversations. And I think that that's important, that people know that it's all out of love, that we could have this discussion today. And I especially want to shout out young women out there that are either earlier in their career or education, and they have all kinds of dreams. Like, I just want to encourage them, because I always plug that in, because God called women to all kinds of places in the world. And
Amen.
right?
I got 3 daughters.
There we
You're
go.
preaching to my daughters.
So you can do it. You got it.
No, that's true. I joke around a lot, but look at what Jesus did to the woman at the well.
Mm-hmm.
Take that conversation. He listened. He just listened. And then he says, all right, now knock it off and don't say no more. But before that,
And she
he
went
just-
and saved the city.
Yeah,
Remember
and
that?
he just
She gave it to
listened, and he
somebody.
had the conversation, and he didn't judge her, and he didn't say you're this and that. He listened, he had the conversation, and he spoke out of love. So no, I appreciate you coming on, Dee Dee. It was fun. It was
It
really
was super fun.
It was really fun. Devin, your last words?
No, nothing. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. It actually helps us out a lot. We've actually been getting some subscribers, so that's pretty cool. Appreciate you guys doing that. And if there's nothing left,
She's my new favorite cousin.
John's got any
I
favorite
met her
cousin
like
now?
an hour ago.
Wait, Deborah didn't give her last words.
I don't have last words. I don't.
She's like, praise the Lord, everybody. Listen.
Right where you are, put your hands
Can
up.
I do my downtown Julie Brown?
She's like, his mercies are never ending, and every morning they're new.
She's trying to sing "Here I Am, Lord."
I just feel it in my heart.
Can we
I
all
don't have
bow
a
our
word,
heads?
but I have a song. So.
All right, everybody. Like, subscribe, share it, and we will hear from you guys next time.